Hey guys, Gio here. Today we're going to talk about a common trap that expats fall into, including myself, and that's moving their Filipina girlfriend in too soon. It's not just about feelings. There are financial, emotional, and yes, even legal consequences that you need to know. So we're going to dive into that into today's video. Stick around. Alright guys, so hanging out at the pool, another beautiful day in the Philippines here. I just love coming up here. It's just, there's no one ever here. I got this pool to myself basically. In fact, I'll take a jump in later here. First thing I want to talk about is the romance rush. I have been guilty of this myself because you get over here, a lot of us expats, we're love starved, attention starved, invisible in the West, and we get here and you find yourself with a beautiful young Filipina, and honestly the attention that and the affection that you get from a sweet Filipina can feel amazing, right? Especially if you haven't had that in a long time. But chemistry isn't compatibility, and it's easy to overlook flags in the honeymoon phase. So for me, the honeymoon phase is usually about 90 days to 6 months. And that's where everything is new, everything feels wonderful. And it's even more heightened because you're in a new country, a new culture, a new type of look with a much younger, beautiful girl than maybe you're used to. And you get kind of rushed into it. Not only that, you kind of the knight in shining armor type thing. You feel sorry maybe for their living conditions or how they live, and a lot of people rush them into they rush them into moving in with them, and that can be a mistake. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, but there might be a better option instead of just moving them in. Financial dependency and expectations. When she moves in, most Filipinas expect you to take care of everything. That means rent, utilities, groceries, even the family sometimes, or often. And if she's not working or studying, this can kind of be a long-term financial drain, especially if you're on a fixed income or early retirement. So you have to kind of have those conversations upfront early on what's going to be covered and what's expected, and are you going to provide for her family or anything like that. And I also want to talk about legal and practical issues, and a lot of times expats don't really think about this, especially here in the Philippines. And I'm not an attorney, so I cannot give you any kind of legal advice. You want to seek out maybe a family law attorney if you want to dive more into this, but I can kind of give you just a brief outline of what I know, and that's cohabitation laws here. Now, the Philippines doesn't really recognize common law marriage per se, but long-term cohabitation can kind of blur the lines in certain situations, especially with property or children still involved. And if she's still married, you got to be real careful, because you could unknowingly kind of get dragged into concubine type charges, especially if her ex is vindictive. And even if she says they're separated, you need to ask for some kind of proof on that, or better yet, don't move her in until you are crystal clear that maybe a separation's been filed for or an annulment has been filed. And also, another thing that people don't understand here is there can be barangay drama. Barangay is almost like an official who overlooks a certain neighborhood. One city will have so many different barangays, and these barangays all have a barangay captain where they can get disputes and things like that taken care of, problems within that neighborhood. So if the relationship sours, she can go to the barangay hall and file complaints: noise, disturbance, verbal abuse, financial abandonment, etc. And now it's not court, but it can lead to legal headaches or pressure to pay settlements, or maybe some kind of a monthly payment. So you got to be careful with that. You move her in, and even more so if you have asked her to leave her job, leave her city. Maybe you live in Dumaguete and you brought her in from Mindanao, Davao, Cagayan de Oro. You can't just kick her out on the street. She could go to the barangay captain and cause a real headache for you. So you got to be very careful about things like that. This is why I think, a lot of people will say, oh, you're a simp. And it's not that you're being a simp, it's you're protecting yourself. I think it's much better to kind of, at least get them a plane ticket back home, or maybe about 3 to 6 months of, maybe 15,000 pesos or what have you, until they're back on the feet, and then keep records of that just in case. So again, I don't think that's being a simp. I think that's just kind of protecting yourself. Number 4 is like emotional and lifestyle fallout. And so once she's living with you, your freedom changes. You're now in a full-time relationship, no casual dating, no solo trips without drama. If she turns out jealous, demanding, or worse, you may feel trapped in your own home. Getting her to leave without drama, not easy. You think you can just say, hey, you need to leave. No, it's not that simple. In fact, this becomes a real problem for a lot of people. I've had that happen. I had a guy who told me he could not get her out of the house, and the condo security had to get involved, and it turned real messy. And then her family was threatening him, and he felt so unsafe that he actually ended up moving to like Cagayan de Oro, and he hated it because he liked Dumaguete. I don't really like Dumaguete, but he liked Dumaguete. He had friends there, coffee meetups. He'd go, I'll play pool and darts with certain friends. And once that happened, he felt he had to move, and he kind of lost all those connections. So just be careful. It can turn into a messy drama. So what do you do instead? That's the question, right? So basically, just take your time. Date for 6 to 12 months is kind of my golden rule. And see how she handles conflict, money, and boundaries. Is she really into your privacy? Does she get upset if you go out with your friends to go have a coffee? Things like that. Is she okay with you doing a motorbike trip maybe with your friends for even just a full day? You gotta see how that all works out. Basically, set expectations before she moves in. Consider a written agreement even about expenses and lifestyle rules. Always know her legal status, so make sure you get a Senomar to protect yourself, to make sure she's not already married. And if she's married, I would walk away honestly, or wait for the annulment to go through before you move in. Don't gamble with your freedom, basically. So, guys, I've seen too many expats lose everything. Peace of mind, money, and even their visa. I've known a guy who lost their visa. He got into such a mess, and she said he did this and he did that, and he ended up just having to leave the country. And he loved the Philippines, but he was worried, and so he left. Because guess what? If it comes down to a barangay hall complaint, and it goes even further, maybe into the courts, guess what? In the Philippines, the burden of innocence, proof, is going to fall on you, the foreigner, not on her. They're going to probably side with her before they do you. That's just the way it is. Even if you're completely innocent in the matter, you really need to have hardcore evidence that you are not guilty. So just remember that. And that's because guys just rush too fast. So just take your time, be smart, and protect yourself. And a couple things I want to mention also before I end this video. Again, I talked about alternatives, and I think a lot of guys don't think about this, but again, they want to be the knight in shining armor, rescue her from poverty. Everything is so new and exciting. Oh my God, she's 25 and she's hot. I've never had a girlfriend this hot. And you're coming from the West and you're in your 50s and the dating has dried up and you've been invisible. And you get here again, and all of a sudden you've got a hot girlfriend who's 27, 25, whatever. And a lot of people just rush them right in. an alternative for me. If you feel bad about maybe their living situation, maybe just cough up a little bit of money and just maybe upgrade their living standard. For example, if they're living in a boarding house at 1,500 pesos per month, maybe upgrade them to 3,000. You know, just pay it. You know, what is it? Give them $25 a month to upgrade their living style. Again, there's consequences on that too. You may be, you know, you break up. Maybe you pay a couple months of that for them if you do break up, but you move them in, there can be consequences. It'll be hard to get them out. They could complain down at the barangay captain. It could go even further. So just be careful, protect yourself. Trust me, I've been through it myself. I know plenty of guys, nothing really major has ever happened to me, but I've known plenty of guys who've just had to up and leave that particular city, had to up and leave the Philippines because they were worried about backlash from their family and, you know, what have you. But anyway, guys, I appreciate you watching. If you have any interesting stories, tell me down in the comment anything that's ever happened to you. But if you do like this video, I really appreciate the thumbs up. Like it, share it if you want to share it with somebody who you might think this could be useful information. And subscribe. A lot of people watch my videos, but they aren't yet subscribed. Subscribe, hit the bell notification, then you're notified every time I come out with a new video. And if you want behind the scenes footage, extra videos, consider joining my Patreon, patreon.com/Geo in the Philippines, for a lot more videos. And again, one-on-one chats with me that I don't normally do in the comments section here or otherwise. So guys, I appreciate you watching. I will see you in the next video. See you next time. Ciao.